Here's something most people never realize until it's too late. The way you store your money when you have $10,000 is almost the exact opposite of how you should store it when you have 10 million. And yet, the vast majority of people use the same strategy their entire lives. They open a checking account at 18, maybe add a savings account, and then just keep stacking everything in the same place decade after decade. The truth is, wealth isn't just about how much you have, it's about where you keep it, how you protect it, and who can take it from you. Because here's the part nobody tells you: the more money you accumulate, the more invisible threats start circling it. Inflation, taxes, lawsuits, bank failures, bad timing, and even your own habits. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly how people store and protect their wealth at every financial tier, from the person living paycheck to paycheck all the way up to the ultra wealthy who treat money like a fortress. And by the end, you'll know exactly which tier you're in and what your next move should be. Let's get into it. Introduction. When we talk about storing wealth, most people imagine a bank account, but that's only the very first step on a much longer ladder. As people climb financially, their priorities shift dramatically. At the bottom, the goal is simply having money available. In the middle, the goal becomes growing it. And at the top, the entire focus changes to protecting it and making sure it lasts for generations. In this video, we're going to break wealth down into 5 clear tiers. For each one, I'll explain how people at that level typically store their money, the risks they face, and the smart moves that help them climb to the next level. I'm not going to give you financial advice tailored to your exact situation because I don't know it, but I will show you the patterns, the logic, and the tools that wealthy people use so you can think more clearly about your own money. Stick around, because tier 3 is where most people get stuck for their entire lives, and tier 5 reveals strategies you've probably never even heard of. Tier 1, the survival tier. Let's start at the very beginning, the survival tier. This is where someone is living paycheck to paycheck. Money comes in, and almost immediately it goes back out to rent, food, transportation, and bills. There's very little left over, and sometimes nothing at all. At this tier, wealth storage is incredibly simple because there isn't much to store. The main tool is a basic checking account and maybe a small amount of cash kept at home for emergencies. The biggest challenge here isn't investing or protecting assets, it's stability. When you have no buffer, a single unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, a broken phone can throw everything into chaos. This is why so many people in this tier rely on credit cards or short-term loans, which often makes the situation worse because of high interest. So what's the smart move at this level? It's not complicated, but it is powerful. Build your very first emergency buffer, even a small one. Financial experts often talk about saving 3 to 6 months of expenses, but when you're in survival mode, that sounds impossible. So forget that number for now. Your first real goal is just $1,000 set aside and untouched. That single cushion changes everything because it breaks the cycle of borrowing every time life surprises you. It's the difference between a setback and a disaster. The key principle at tier 1 is access. You need your money to be safe and instantly available. This isn't the time to think about returns or fancy accounts. It's the time to create just enough breathing room to start thinking ahead instead of always reacting. And here's the mini lesson that carries into every tier above this one: you can't build wealth while you're constantly putting out fires. Stability comes first. Always. Tier 2, the stability tier. Once someone has a small emergency fund and their bills are reliably covered, they enter the stability tier. This is where things start to get interesting because now there's actual money left over at the end of the month. Not a lot, but enough to start making choices. At this tier, people usually expand beyond a single checking account. They open a dedicated savings account, and increasingly, a high yield savings account, which is simply a savings account that pays more interest than a traditional one. Instead of earning almost nothing, your money earns a little while it sits there, helping it keep pace with rising prices. This is also the stage where people start to feel the quiet enemy of all savers: inflation. Here's the simple version. Inflation means that over time, the same amount of money buys less. The $100 sitting in your account today will likely buy less in 5 years than it does right now. So if your money is just sitting in a basic account earning nothing, it's slowly losing value, even though the number on the screen never changes. That realization is what pushes people to do more than just save. They start to think about growing their money. At the stability tier, the smart move is to finish building that full emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses, and then begin learning about investing. Not jumping in with everything, just starting to understand it. This is also where employer retirement accounts come into play. Many people in this tier get access to a retirement plan through their job, sometimes with an employer match, which is essentially free money added to your contributions. Skipping that match is one of the most common and costly mistakes people make. The key principle at tier 2 is the shift from saving to growing. You're no longer just storing money for emergencies. You're planting the first seeds that will compound over time. And speaking of compounding, that's exactly what unlocks the next tier, where money starts working harder than you do. Tier three, the growth tier. Welcome to tier three, the growth tier. This is the level where most people will spend the majority of their financial lives, and it's also where the biggest mental shift happens. Up until now, the focus has been on having money and protecting it from emergencies. But at the growth tier, the goal becomes making your money multiply. People at this level usually have a few things in place: a solid emergency fund, retirement accounts they contribute to regularly, and often a separate investment account where they buy assets like index funds, which are simply baskets that hold many companies at once, spreading your money across the whole market instead of betting on a single stock. This is the tier where the magic of compounding really takes hold. Compounding means your money earns returns, and then those returns earn returns of their own. Over years and decades, this snowballs. A modest amount invested consistently can grow into something remarkable, not because of luck, but because of time. But here's where it gets tricky, and here's why so many people get stuck at this tier for life. At the growth tier, the danger isn't running out of money for emergencies anymore. The danger is your own behavior. Markets go up and down. When they drop, people panic and sell. When everyone's excited, people buy at the worst possible time. The biggest threat to your wealth at this level isn't the market, it's emotion. The smart move at tier three is to automate and stay consistent. Set up automatic contributions so you invest the same amount on a regular schedule, no matter what the market is doing. This strategy removes emotion from the equation and takes advantage of both the highs and the lows over time. People at this tier also start paying attention to something they may have ignored before: taxes. They begin using tax advantaged accounts, which are special accounts designed to reduce how much tax you pay either now or in the future. Keeping more of what you earn is just as important as earning more in the first place. The key principle at tier three is patience and discipline. The tools are simple, the math works. The hard part is staying the course for years while life tempts you to do something rash. Now, most financial content stops here. But this is where things get genuinely fascinating, because the next two tiers operate by completely different rules. Tier four, the wealth protection tier. At tier four, something changes fundamentally. People at this level have accumulated real wealth, often hundreds of thousands or even millions in assets, and their entire mindset flips. Up until now, every tier was focused on getting more. But at the wealth protection tier, the priority becomes keeping what you have and protecting it from a whole new set of threats. See, when you don't have much, very few people are interested in taking it. But as your wealth grows, you become a bigger target for lawsuits, for taxes, for bad financial decisions, and even for people in your own life. So how do people store wealth at this tier? They diversify far more deliberately than before. Instead of keeping everything in one type of account or one kind of asset, they spread their wealth across many different places: stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses, and sometimes alternative assets like precious metals. The logic is simple but powerful. If your wealth is spread across many baskets, no single event can wipe you out. A bad year in the stock market doesn't sink you, because real estate or other holdings can balance it out. This is also the tier where people start thinking seriously about legal protection. They use tools like trusts, which are legal structures that hold assets on behalf of someone, and proper insurance policies designed to shield their wealth from lawsuits and unexpected disasters. Real estate becomes a major pillar here too, not just as a place to live, but as an investment that can generate income and grow in value over time. Many people at this tier own property that pays them rent, turning their wealth into a machine that produces even more cash flow. And then there's the part most people never think about: liquidity planning. That's just a fancy way of saying they make sure they always have enough accessible cash on hand, so they never have to sell a valuable asset at a bad time just to cover an expense. The key principle at tier four is protection over growth. These individuals already know how to make money. Now their focus is making sure they don't lose it and making sure it works quietly in the background for decades. But there's one final tier, and it plays an entirely different game. This is the world of generational wealth. Tier five, the legacy tier. At the very top, we reach tier five, the legacy tier. This is the world of the ultra wealthy, and the rules here are almost unrecognizable compared to where we started. At this level, the question is no longer, how do I grow my money? Or even, how do I protect it? The question becomes, how do I make this wealth last for generations, long after I'm gone? People at the legacy tier rarely store wealth in simple bank accounts. In fact, sitting on large amounts of cash is something they actively avoid, because they understand that idle money loses value to inflation every single year. Instead, their wealth is held inside carefully designed structures. They use advanced trusts, private companies, and holding entities, which are organizations that exist specifically to own and manage assets. These structures help control how wealth is passed down, reduce taxes, and shield assets from lawsuits and disputes. Their investments are spread across the entire globe and across every category imaginable. Businesses, large-scale real estate, private companies that aren't available to the public, and long-term holdings designed to grow steadily over decades. Diversification at this level isn't just smart, it's a way of life. But here's what really separates this tier from all the others: the focus on people, not just assets. The ultra-wealthy invest heavily in advisors, lawyers, and tax specialists, an entire team whose only job is to protect and grow the family's wealth. They also invest in educating the next generation because they know a hard truth. Most family fortunes are lost within a few generations, not because of bad investments, but because the heirs were never taught how to manage money. This is why estate planning becomes so central at this tier. They make detailed plans for exactly how wealth will be transferred, who will control it, and how it will be used. The goal isn't just to hand money to the next generation, it's to hand down the knowledge and structure to keep that money alive. The key principle at Tier 5 is permanence. Every decision is made with a time horizon measured not in years, but in generations. They're not trying to get rich, they already are. They're trying to make sure their family stays that way. Bringing it all together. So let's step back and look at the full picture because the pattern here is the real lesson. At Tier 1, the survival tier, the focus is access, just having money available and breaking the cycle of borrowing. At Tier 2, the stability tier, the focus shifts to saving and beating inflation, building a real cushion, and earning a little on the side. At Tier 3, the growth tier, it's all about discipline and compounding, letting time and consistency multiply your money while controlling your emotions. At Tier 4, the wealth protection tier, the mindset flips from getting more to keeping more through diversification, legal protection, and smart planning. And at Tier 5, the legacy tier, the entire game becomes permanence, structuring wealth to survive for generations. Do you see the progression? At the bottom, money is about survival. In the middle, it's about growth. At the top, it's about protection and legacy. The strategies that work brilliantly at one tier can actually hold you back at another. That's the mistake so many people make. They reach a new level financially, but they keep using the old playbook. They hoard cash when they should be investing, or they chase risky growth when they should be protecting what they've built. The real skill isn't just making money. It's recognizing which tier you're in and adjusting your strategy to match it. Conclusion. Here's the most important takeaway from all of this. Wealth isn't a single destination. It's a series of stages, and each one demands a different way of thinking. You don't need millions to start applying these lessons. The person at Tier 1 who builds their first $1,000 buffer is using the exact same principle as the billionaire protecting a fortune. They're both matching their strategy to their situation. They're both thinking one step ahead. So take an honest look at where you stand right now. Which tier describes you today? And more importantly, what's the one move that gets you closer to the next one? Maybe it's starting that emergency fund. Maybe it's finally setting up automatic investing. Maybe it's learning how to protect what you've already built. Whatever it is, the climb starts with awareness, and you now have a map that most people never get to see. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments which tier you're currently in and which one you're aiming for. I read them, and it genuinely helps shape the videos I make next. And if you want to go deeper, check out the video on screen where I break down the specific money habits that quietly separate the wealthy from everyone else. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.